The Steam Workshop is a place of true beauty, where genius minds come to break games or make them 10 times better. And Kenshi's a game that's been out for over a decade now, and has thousands of people with thousands of hours who have made thousands of mods. Some of them so good that it's a wonder why Lo-Fi Studios didn't actually add them to the game, which brings up the question, what is the best start that Kenshi never added to the game? Starting off with a mod simply titled Kenshi Starts by Kakarot. This mod seeks to add 20 unique, very vanilla-based starts to the game. Nothing too crazy, but just some interesting new perspectives. So that's why I wanted to start with this one. And I was really interested in the Shek's Last Stand, which says to spawn in and fight the Bugmaster. In this mod, you start off in the Spider Plains, just outside the Shek-controlled city of Last Stand. You play as a retired 100 Guardian with an absolutely loaded inventory, full of Me Too level gear, as well as medical supplies, and $10,000 to your name. Not to mention a very impressive stat lineup. Walking into Last Stand, you are regarded as the Battleborn by passerbys, showing your history of success as a 100 Guardian. And when speaking with the other Elder Shek warriors in the bar, you get an idea of the general opinion around here on the Bugmaster, as well as some insight into who exactly he is. The man at the bar explains that all Shek elders come to Last Stand to prepare for their final battle, as it is the most honorable ending for a warrior, to attempt to defeat the Bugmaster in combat. As an elder warrior, it only seems right that we follow the path of our ancestors, so I headed south towards Iraq, where I bumped into some bounty hunters along the way. After speaking with the bounty hunters, we found out that the Bugmaster has quite the bounty on his head, probably for all the Shek he's killed over the years. And we learned that he supposedly has one of the greatest treasures in all the land. After our exchange, I continued to head south towards the Bugmaster's hideout. This place is filled with literal rivers of blood that you have to cross to get there, so I was forced to swim at some points before finally running into some of these famous bugs. And if you've played Kenshi enough, you might have noticed that when you swim, almost every other creature in the game walks on the bottom of the lake. They don't swim, only humans. So I found myself in a very peculiar situation when I saw that my character was walking on the ground and the spider was the one swimming. Either way, characters are pretty much useless in the water, so I moved on until eventually my character popped up onto the surface of the water, which is when I saw the real issue. But I'm a scaredy cat. I run from all my problems in Kenshi, and I really didn't want to die here. I wanted to at least die at the Bugmaster's den as an honorable warrior, so I continued to run.
Let me out. Let me out.
This was of course a mistake, as expected. I had created my own impenetrable barrier of bugs that I could not escape, until finally I broke free. And luckily, with this start, the character has really good athletics and was able to inch their way out before finally pulling ahead of the pack and making a great escape. Free from the bugs at the lake, we could continue walking towards the only building in sight, where we reconnected with some of the bounty hunters from earlier. But back to the creepy unknown tower. Yeah, this is definitely it. But as my lineage calls for, we began to fight the Bugmaster. I figured the chances of me killing all the bugs here by myself was slim to none, so I was hoping to just get a lucky shot in on the Bugmaster and escape. Until I noticed that I was killing bugs in a single blow, on accident. I didn't understand the strength of this Me Too blade held in the hands of a true Shek warrior, and began to change my plan. After incapacitating the spiders that guard his base, I would simply steal their teeth while they sleep, because in this game, if you loot an animal, they die. So after stealing all their teeth, it was finally just me and the Bugman, and they battled it out. A heated battle, with good attacks from both sides. He hit me, I hit him, but in the end, he had bested me. For now. Because like the Phoenix, I rose again. And he beat me again. And I rose again. And he beat me again. And I rose once more to be defeated again. Which is when I realized that I might need to change my plans. The Bugman has prisoner cages upstairs, where I'll be safe and untouched. But he doesn't have a bed himself. So that means I can spend the night healing my wounds while he spends the night bleeding out. Meaning that when we finally reconvene, I will have the advantage. Which is exactly what happened. After days of fighting, I had finally got him. His valuable treasure, by the way, 1,000 human teeth. All worth $0 each. So what do I think of this start? I really like how vanilla friendly it is, and the fact that it plays off the actual Kenshi lore. The idea of starting off as an old retired war veteran and becoming the hero of your people, or dying a valiant death, is a really cool concept. But this is supposed to be the start of the game, not the end. You can't really start a game by killing a boss, and the character's just way too OP to have a balanced start in my opinion. Therefore, I would give this start a 6 out of 10. Moving on to the next start, but inside the same mod pack, we have the Bounty Hunter start. This start is very similar to the vanilla Freedom Seekers start, since you begin with a pretty big squad of 7 people and a dog. You start off stranded in the city of Mongrel, which is actually a pretty nice city, minus its location. Obviously, living in the Foglands is not that great, since you'll get eaten alive once you go outside. I forgot to show the characters' inventories and stats, but you can see here the stats are very good, and they start out with standard grade weapons. You also get $10,000, which in this town means you can buy either a small shack and have leftover, or save up and buy a nicer base on the other side of town for $14,000. But honestly, it shouldn't be that hard to make that kind of money, because that's the whole point of this start. We're bounty hunters, capturing bad guys for thousands of dollars. But before we can get working on that, we can't ignore the fact that starting in Mongrel means you get instant access to the strongest character in the game. So after recruiting Beep, we went to the bar to get a bounty, with 3 bounties available on the Red Bandit, the King Gurgler, and the Dust King. We took them all and hit the road. Our priority now was making it out of the Foglands alive, which of course meant fighting some Fogmen off. This was a pretty simple task for our squad because again, their stats are pretty decent and you start off with decent gear. So after disposing of the Fogmen, we were able to continue east, which is when I realized that I may have forgotten about someone. Beep had been taken to the Fogmen HQ, a maximum security fog prison. So secret that it was literally hidden inside the rocks, essentially an underground bunker. But Beep is a strong boy, so I left him to do his own business. And having gotten into a couple fights already, I was more focused on the health of the bounty hunters. So we continued east, simply looking for a place to rest, when finally a city appeared on the horizon. So while I sent half our team to bed, I checked in on Beep. During this time, he had actually managed to free himself, and in the dead of night, it was really easy for him to get away. So I sent him back to his home of Mongrel, where I knew he would feel comfortable and safe. I did not want to risk his life again. With Beep safe and sound and the squad fully replenished, we hit the road again, this time truly beginning our journey as bounty hunters. I decided to go after the Dust King first, since I know where he lives, and it happens to be nearby the city that we rested at. On the way, we got attacked by some starving bandits. After putting them down, we finally arrived at the Dust King's base. Upon inspection, the gate is locked, but luckily, you start out with enough characters that someone has a decent lockpick skill. So after breaking in, to no surprise, we were attacked on sight. After exchanging some blows and eventually disabling the harpoon turrets, it was time to properly infiltrate the tower, which is where we finally ran into the Dust King. I did not realize how many of them would be inside the tower and was now getting my ass kicked. Somewhere along the way, the Dust King ran away and mounted a turret, which can apparently shoot backwards. This ended up being the death of our attack. But luckily, after some nice resting time on the floor, we woke up and bandaged our wounds. Which is when I noticed that the Dust King had returned to his turret, all by himself, out in the open. So after a couple quick swipes, we finally had him. While this wasn't the perfect example of being a bounty hunter, I think it was a good demonstration of the concept. From this start, without spending any money on weapons or recruits or anything else, I was able to take down a pretty big target and complete a pretty nice bounty. I would almost argue that the start is overpowered for a fresh start to a campaign. However, If you're someone who's already played Kenshi and you've built a base and you fought Catlon and you've done everything else, but you never really explored the bounty part of the game, this might be something you'd want to check out. This is an easy way to hop in and explore that part of the game without having to completely change the way that you've been playing it on your main save. That being said, I would give this start a 7 out of 10. While there are a ton of other ways we could have started the game using the Kenshi Starts mod by Kakarot, I can't review them all in just this one video. So if you want to see more of those, let me know. But for now, we're going to check out a different set of game starts created by Celtic Soul called The Girl and the Monster. This mod comes with 3 different starts, all pertaining to people owning creatures, to include spiders, bone dogs, and your own personal gorillo. The idea of having your own gorillo was too cool for me to pass up. I couldn't stop myself from playing this one first. And to be honest, it's probably the least realistic start of them all. As you can see, we have a freaking monster on our hands, and it comes with the stats to match. Not to mention that the main character herself is also really strong, and comes with a modded weapon worth $500,000. And if that wasn't enough, you also start out with almost 30,000 credits. The reason you start out with so much money is because the start actually takes place in World's End, which is a dead-end town up in the mountains. But there is a pretty nice L house that you can buy for $29,000. Now, unfortunately, my recording got corrupted, but basically, I just fought every single person in this town. I walked over and punched the first guard that I saw and began an all-out war to see the strength of the character and the gorilla. And ultimately, they both died, actually, but we killed about 20 guards before that. So this is definitely a powerful start, and if that's what you want for your gorilla and you, I would recommend it. If you don't want it to be too overpowered, the developer does recommend throwing away the katana. I'm sure you could make a cool series out of this. I give it another 7. But that isn't the only start in the mod. If you're still interested in having your own pets, but not big fluffy ones, and instead you want some personal Roombas to follow you around, then you can always start as a skeleton. As a skeleton, you get 3 skeleton spider followers who start with you next to a leaning tower in the Floodlands. There's a lot of stuff around, but it all kind of blows because it's the Floodlands. You do start with a katana though, and 3 repair kits, which is pretty nice. The spiders actually have their own inventories, but don't have anything. Not only do they have their own inventories, but the spiders also have their own stat lines, which are crazy good. The tower that you spawn next to has basically nothing good in it, besides human beds, but you're a skeleton. So instead, I chose to walk to the nearby location, Shanty Settlement. Once I arrived at the town, I noticed a peculiar trade sign. I've never seen something like that in the game before, and based on the dialogue presented when speaking to the man, I wonder if the creator of this mod put this town here. Either way, he sells and buys goods, and in his attic is a skeleton bed that's free to use. So it almost feels like this might be a tutorial town or a safe haven, because the actual intended way to play the start, according to the mod page, is to fight the tech hunters. One other good thing about this location is that you're very close to Burns Tower if you know where to go, which means you can instantly expand your squad having 2 skeletons, as long as you know what to say to him. Burns Tower also has a free skeleton bed and power, making it a good location potentially. So in the end, I think this start is pretty good. The location's better than I expected actually, due to the tutorial town, and Burn being so close nearby. But the start itself seems a little bit uninspiring to me personally. The tech hunters are probably one of the most chill nations in the game, and again, by my standards, I think the stats are just crazy high on these characters. But having skeleton spider minions is unique and cute, and I think that's what this mod is actually about. So overall, I give it a 6 out of 10. The last start in the Girl and Monster pack is The Kid and the Monsters, where you play as a boy whose parents were eaten by cannibals, forced away, and raised by wolves. But only by 3 of them. So I figured, why stop at 3 wolves when you can have 255? That's right, the guy with 255 dogs start. Created by none other than Mermaid Zelda's Butt Shrimp. which I have now just said and put on the internet. But regardless of his name, this start deserves to be played because I think that it is hilarious. And as you can see, you really do start with one guy and 255 dogs. You also have the opportunity to click through and name every single one of them if you wanted to. Once you spawn in, you are immediately graced with this visual spectacle. Look at this army of puppies that you start out with in one of the abandoned areas of Bast, which might actually be the worst place we have started today. Not only that, but it comes with probably the worst inventory and worst stats we have seen all day. But for me, that's actually a positive, because all we've seen today are starts that start you out mid-game or late game, even though they are really cool. The puppies are also puppies, so their stats are 1s and 2s. Since there is literally nothing in Bast, I looked around the map and ended up heading towards World's End, since I figured it was the closest safe town. And honestly, I don't even know what to say, besides look at how insane this looks. I did find out one major issue pretty early on though, which is that it's kind of hard to keep 256 people together. I didn't even see anything attack us, but 10 of my bone dogs had formed a second pack and were attacking wild bone dogs. And even though my character and his sea of bone dogs ran to the rescue, by the time we showed up to the fight, some of my bone dogs were already beginning to pass away. And a whole different pack of 50 bone dogs were miles away. And I didn't even know. After everything was said and done, we were already down 29 bone dogs. But there wasn't much I could do now besides keep heading towards World's End, where we eventually ran into some outlaws, who proceeded to kick my character's ass, before taking on the bone dogs one by one. But even a legendary outlaw was no match for a couple puppies. But with my character down and no other human characters to heal him, I had basically already lost the game. So, just for fun, I decided to ruin the lives of some nearby paladins and send the remaining 200 bone dogs I had into their outpost. NANI? And in case there wasn't already enough evidence proving that paladins are dumb, they assumed that these wild dogs were possessed by skeletons, and that's why they were attacking them. And although the dogs didn't do amazing in the fight, and it may have looked like they were losing from the beginning, they slowly bit the ankles of every paladin until there were none left. So all in all, I think this mod is super creative, but also the right amount of silly. The start isn't overpowered, as you saw almost every dog had to die to kill like 5 paladins, and the main character has horrible stats. This start also creates a unique issue for the rest of the run, in that you have already maxed out the squad, so you can't recruit any other human beings unless you're willing to kill off one of your own bone dogs. I also think the idea of raising the puppies into full-on wolves and becoming your own boss, like the Bug Master, or in this case, the Wolf Master, is really cool. Therefore, I give this mod a 9 out of 10. So what is the best start that Kenshi never added to the game? Today, I reviewed 5 different starts, all completely different from one another, and from different creators. There are also hundreds of other mods out there that I haven't tried yet, so maybe my answer will change. But for today, I had the most fun with the 255 dogs start. I hope you enjoyed watching. I'm going to leave a link to all the mods in the description. Leave a comment telling me what mods you like in Kenshi, and have a great day.